see. Something's going to happen. Something wonderful.
My God, it's full of stars.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NY Patriot Show. This week we are continuing our Planetary Magick series, fun series. I think it's going to be a really good one. I thought the last one was great. I had a lot of fun with this guy, and I think that we just had a good chat, and I think there was a plethora of information in there for people to, to get something out of. And I can't be any more happy to be doing this one. Today we got back Louis from Uncannymysticminds podcast. Louis, do you want to let everybody know where they can find your stuff and say what's up or whatever?
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Louis from Uncannymysticminds. Thanks for having me, bro. Yeah, appreciate it. I'm ready for round two.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, because that shit was fun last time. We were kind of goofing off a little bit and talking about Rocky and God knows where else we went.
Yeah, that was wild. Yes.
Yeah. So pretty much you guys can find the podcast on all regular platforms, Uncanny Mystic Minds, and my IG is the same. And you can email me at the same, pretty much, Uncanny Mystic Minds, not podcast, just uncannymysticminds@gmail.com.
Very nice. And I will have all your links in the bottom in the show notes as well, anyway. So last show, all we did was cover Jupiter, and what was the Jupiter and Mars? Was that it, or am I wrong?
Yeah, we started with Mars,
and then
we started with Mars down on the bottom, and then to orange to Jupiter.
That's right. And then today, now we'll be continuing with the sun first. You said correct, sir?
Yeah, we want to talk about the sun. Well, talk about the sun first.
All right, sounds good. So I'll let you kick it off.
So pretty much the third, because we're going in row, like for this show, we're basically going in terms of the orders of the chakra from the bottom to the top.
Yes.
So now we're going to be at the third. So it's like the solar plexus. It's like right here, right? And so solar plexus, the base of that word is soul, right? And so it kind of makes sense that, like, Spanish sol is sun, and then so it's so it's tied to that. That's kind of how you see a tie with that too. And
didn't there used to be even workout equipment called solar plexus back in the day?
It was called something. It was very close to that.
Yeah,
I remember that because you used to see like the little like the TV commercials for this thing. It was called. It like rhymed with that for sure. It was very close to that. I think it ended with that. Yeah, I'm just not sure of the beginning. Yeah, I remember that, seeing that little infomercial.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something close to it.
Yeah, because it's all about like the vibe for that one is like the empowerment, because whenever it's like the top of your core, right? And so that's like where you want to be. If you are going to be hard somewhere, it's like right there. It's like that sternumy upper core area, because that's where a lot of your posture, that's why people who don't have that empowerment feeling, their posture is going to be like dug in and like kind of like weaker. And so you don't feel your empowerment. Yeah. As opposed to when you get lower, like the breathing's a lot more important. But over here, it's like you want to make sure you have like that. There's like a certain hardness in a way. And then so that's where you get like that it's like empowerment of confidence of like, I can do this. Like, yes, it's kind of like that kind of vibe. And then of that, like, and that like I did it. It's like it's all about like I
yes.
did it.
They even I think almost if I remember correctly, I even think when it comes down to like planetary magic with the sun, I think it can be even used to be like a kind of like saying I want to be king of my own domain as well too.
Yeah, it's like a lot of rulership, because the glyph for this, it's like it's really easy. It's like a circle and then with a dot on the inside. It's centered in the middle. So it like that little dot is like you're the sun and everything revolves around you. You know what I mean? And then you're like the center of the universe, just how
the center of everything.
In the cosmos, everything revolves around the sun. So that's why it has like that majestic feeling of like I'm the biggest one, like I'm the main one. I'm like the big show. Yeah. And, it's kind of like the opposite of it's pretty much like the opposite of nothing. It's like the everything. It's like everything all in one.
Yeah. Even on the tree of life, like that's like the middle sphere. It's like the balance of all of them, So even when it comes to Kabbalah, it's kind of like a mixture of everything and balanced.
Yeah, it's like super centered, and then that's how you feel like you're the epitome of everything. You know what I mean? That's like how like that's like where the regal vibe comes from too.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm everything. Everything revolves around me. You know.
I even think that's why I've seen, you'll see a lot, or I've seen a lot. I forgot the name of what you'd call them. It's almost like a shield or whatever that like families will have their names on and stuff. All that shit.
Oh,
Sometimes you'll see horses, or sometimes you'll see lions, and I think they both kind of represent. I think the lion is like definitely representing the sun in a sense,
for sure. Yeah,
or the
it's
beast.
like that
Kind of.
fire. Yeah, it's like that fire energy. And then like in terms of like astrology, like say we're at the bar and a Leo is that guy who's the magnetic attractor. He's like, imagine there's like 20 people in that bar, that he's like the one in the middle of the bar, and then he's like a lot of he's like centered, like all eyes like are almost on him
Yeah,
pretty much.
everybody's paying attention to him. Everybody's
Yeah,
listening to
like the
him. Yeah.
magnetism. And then what's funny is that they don't necessarily, because they feel like they're everything, they don't necessarily have to be doing anything. They're just like in it like that. Like other people bring different things to the table, but what they like to almost do nothing and just kind of stand there and take it like, and just kind of have it be as is, you know.
It's almost like from the
Hence,
vibe that they just give off to begin with.
yeah. I also tie this to like the I am, and so that's why they just like I am. You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
like the focal point, and then so I, it's a glyph of an I, and the am, it's tied to ambition in terms of like the initial lower chakras of the flame, like red, orange, yellow, how it makes a flame. This one is the ambition in terms of like the drive. Yeah. Like we covered earlier that Mars is like the ignition of the willpower of the drive. And then the orange, the Jupiter is like the expansion, the culmination. But you need the ambition in the middle of that to like temper all of that flame. Yeah. So it's like the I am, like ambition. Yeah. That's also tied with that.
Have you ever noticed like I guess I know there is a band. I think I could be wrong. It might be Orbital that has it, and it's just called the Girl with the Sun in Her Eyes. But have you ever like seen that before? Like even like people's eyes look like they have the sun in them and shit like that. Because I have seen that in some
No.
stuff. I've even seen it with like the B-52s and shit like that. Like kind of like almost like showing like glowing eyes as if it's the sun coming out of their eyes. And I think that it kind of has to go back
Oh,
with
like
something
a
with.
golden, like golden.
Yes, yeah. I really think that has something like
Yeah.
you just said, the
Yeah.
I and then
Yeah.
the M. I really do think that is kind of showing that in a
Oh,
sense.
cool. Like we like Reiki wasn't a part of this. This was more like planet and chakra ish in terms of this show. But in terms of Reiki, I'll tell you real quick that the initial places of where you'll have your Reiki is obviously first. It's like the hands are initial, right? That's why they call it like hand healing, right, or something like that. And if you get like your ring finger and you go like this, see like this little
Hmm.
hole, this little focal point. This is where the Reiki emanates from. Like that's where like where the focus, like you can move your hand to make it bigger, but that's where the focal point is right there. And then the other one, like once you like typically people who've done it for a long time kind of do this or feel it, but you can also from your mouth and also from your eyes, you can use Reiki to export like that. And then when I think about Reiki, because I practice it, I think of like pretty much for me, I think about like gold. I'm not sure if that's what I was taught, but that's just kind of what I've done for the kind of for a long time. So I think about like gold. Like to me, Reiki is like gold, and then that happens to be the metal of the sun.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And then it's like
Well,
gold is super prized here. Yeah.
I know. I think I'll show it when I show some of the stuff I have. When it comes to planetary magic, I think also like Raphael can be associated with the sun a lot when it comes to planetary magic because of his healing effects.
Yeah.
Because
Him
of
and
like
Michael.
it's supposed to be like kind of represents like better health or just overall just doing well. And I think Raphael has been known in the one book I had. I think the way they explained it, why he's associated with it, is because he did have like some sort of ointment or healing shit with him at one point in the Bible. So I guess he was known for healing or having something that could heal. So
Yeah. No, that's for sure. I guess initially I learned that it was Michael, but then I also heard that it was Raphael. So now you just broke that one
yeah.
down. Yeah, so thank you. Um
Oh yeah,
like in
that's another thing too. Like when it comes to that's like I was saying to you earlier about like the Kabbalah, they can be very close to each other, but for some reason, I think when you start getting into the Kabbalah and planetary magic, those two do switch. I think Michael and Raphael don't actually line up the same way. So
Mhm.
I think there could be certain characteristics about them that can easily get interchanged.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll kind of break that down. We can always use like the people at the bar. I like using that scenario.
I thought that was good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny. So before I talk about that bar thing, just how you were saying the healing powers in my notes, I have spiritual powers and healing that the sun is tied to. So see, we're
Hmm.
on the same page. It's like spiritual powers, like kind of like like Reiki or something, and healing, and we've all heard of like sun gazing, right?
Yes.
And then with me, I guess what I've my experiences that I've liked from my experiments is that I like the one in the evening, like when it's coming down, and say I'll be at a park or something, and I'm looking at the trees, and through the trees you see the sun, and then the sun's popping out through the trees, like in just the right way where it's like you see the rays really good,
Yeah, yeah. It almost just looks
and
like lines through the
yeah,
air, right? Wild
and
shit.
I'll try to get in that, and then I'll sun gaze, and what I do is like I try to like um when you're a little kid and you have like a magnifying glass, and then you're trying to
Yes.
kill ants, and then in order to get just that pure hot burning laser ray, you have to like kind of figure it out and kind of find out how to manipulate that glass.
Hmm.
That's kind of what that same manipulating and moving is what I do with my eyes and focusing. And then I try to, and then I get those beams like right in my eyes to the point where I feel it in my soul, like
Oh
my
wow.
solar plexus or just my soul, right? And then after doing that, I don't know, I feel physically different. And then I also get like a lot of like mental clarity. And I can feel like the sun's talking to me or like the universe is talking to me. And then that's something that you could do with sun gazing, or at least that I've experimented with. Yeah, so it's healing for sure.
That's wild, the sun gazing thing. Your
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, that's the best way I could describe it. It's like when you're killing ants as a little kid with that little magnifying
Yeah,
glass.
yeah. I know what you're
You
getting
do
at
that
there. Yeah.
except with the sun in your eyes, and then and you just, I don't know, you just let it soak in
The
there, I
sun.
guess.
I feel like the sun always like during the summer. I just feel like it makes everybody feel better. You're out
Yeah,
more. You're doing more
yeah.
shit.
Similar to like it's like kind of how like Venus, like Friday is like the fun day of the week. It's kind of like summer is like the fun season. Like people are
Yes.
more happier, like a lot of more like sexual prowess is up. People are trying to be more out and like the whole thing is just amped up.
Oh yeah. Well, that could be the aspect because fire would be the element that
Uh-huh.
goes with the sun. I mean, when it comes to fire, that can start. It doesn't always have to be bad, but it could get into like over sexualizing. But I mean, I just think that when fire is associated with it, things are going to be a lot more. Okay, I put it this way: when things are hot or when you're heating something up, you're just making the atoms move around a lot more. And when things are getting cold, they're slowing down and not doing much of anything. Same thing when it's the winter. You're staying in the house, you ain't doing much of shit. And then when the summer comes, everybody wants to go out and start moving around and doing things. Same shit as the element, really.
Yeah. Want to be seen. Yeah, like you want to be seen, and then kind of like how the atoms are moving around together, more social. It feels more social. The
Yeah.
other one feels more like repellent. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like I'm gonna go to my cave, and that's why a lot of animals will go to their cave and hibernate, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they even slow down
You know?
themselves to do that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, all the way. Their whole biological thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I even
yeah.
think like what I was saying with the fire, you can get, of course, like this summer, everybody wants to look good. You want to go out and get laid, go to the beach, all that shit. People are a little bit more, they got more spark to them. They want to go out and do more shit. They're more livelier.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
More energy, more
Mm-hmm.
something like that, right? There's more motion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So like in terms of Michael, uh, with the sun, you get like Michael was like the first angel, right? And then I think he was probably like out of those main ones, he has to be like the biggest one. If he was like the like leader of like the army, like you would figure that's like the biggest, strongest one, right? So when I think of like a sun archetype going to the bar, they're usually the biggest dude. They're probably like the biggest dude in the room. Like Jupiter might be the most like flashy with money, and then they might have like, because they like to indulge in expansion. Maybe they have like a big like a pot belly as opposed to other people, but the sun is actually probably like the biggest one, like the tallest and the biggest, and then they don't have to do nothing. Like they're just hanging out like that. Like that's like a part of their identity. And then so it's funny because the sun in astrology, it's all about identity, you know, the id, right? And then it's like your perspective of like how you see things, and then how you want people to see you. And then like the mask that we wear, there's like different parts of mask, right? But the front part of my mask, like with my yellow glasses, this is my sun. This is like what I want the people to see. That's like the sun, the solar kind of archetype trying to project itself. Like it wants to show you that side. It doesn't want to show you any of my faux hawk that I have in my back. It doesn't want to show you any of that. You know?
I was gonna say, you know, when it comes to magic, I do think, and you know, I think humans just do it regardless. But I think when it comes to magic, people can start doing it more intentionally. You will start to be able to realize you can just take certain masks off and put different masks back on. You can easily switch roles if you have to, even if it's not, you're not being authentic. I think.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see how this all kind of goes along with each other as well.
Yeah,
which would be king of your domain, because then you're able to play any role you fucking need to keep your domain the way you want it.
Yeah, because the ego is very good at that. It's like the ultimate actor in a way, right? Like the ultimate actor. And then so that's why the left side of the brain is tied to that. Like that's where the ego stems from. Like I learned that one from like Stuart Swerdlow, I guess, from a book back in the day. But that's like the, you know, like the analytical, like where the judgments come, because you have to judge, like say if you're driving a car and you're backing up a car, you have to judge how much space you got, right? Because if not, you're going to crash a car. So you do have to use it to judge in a way. But at the same time, judgment here on Earth, we have the double-edged sword. So that's why you can get ego in that way, you know, like where you like edge God out, so to speak, like that kind of ego. So, but it's kind of where that comes. And then you can easily put on the various masks as like the ultimate actor.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
When you start thinking the whole world is just the stage.
Yeah. And so that's why being, I guess, acknowledging how all that works is like very important, because if not, that's where the delusion can really hit in. If you're delusional on that side of your brain, holy crap, like you're going to be like hating life, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, so, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned earlier with the atoms, because here I see that the sun is the primary source of every atom. So look at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a foundational thing. And then they're usually from like beginning to end, they hold it, the sun. Like in Egypt, Ra like held the title from like beginning to end, and it was like the same strength. Like how other gods or other kings, they have peaks and valleys of their story. But with the sun like that, it like their story is like they're all the way through. Like they're all the way through. And then that's why it's just a little one. Boop, like you're just the one. You know, I've referenced it before. I forgot where, you know, maybe an older like show or something, but I just came up with I just said it one time, like the one of the sun. The sun feels like the one, and then also the sun is like the sun, like in things like say like Jesus was the sun, Horus was the sun.
Yes.
They were born
a lot of
on the same
wordplay.
day,
Yeah.
right? And all this stuff with like the summer solstice and all that, and so they're like the suns. They play the suns, yeah. And so that also ties with the solar archetype, you know. And you know the sun can walk on water, and then like with Horus, that's like an anagram for hours. You know, so you can track the sun through the hours, through the Horus, and then you can see the phases of that. Yeah.
You know, we had a guest on the occult rejects. It hasn't come out yet. We we had him come on to cover Indian stuff. Not to get off topic, but it's kind of on topic, I guess.
Yeah.
He said that I forgot already what tribe it was that he was. I think it might have been the Utes, or the Utes, or the Navajo. It was neither the Utes or the Navajo. I think he covered that they actually had a clock or something that he thinks, and they're saying that they believe that that's what they were doing. That they were actually tracking the sun and the fucking moon at the same time.
Shit.
Like, and he said, like, for
That's
them to
sick.
be ordered to do the
Yeah.
moon, I think it would take 10 years or something close to that to actually have like a full actual cycle of what the moon does. And he said, so they had to have been
Wow.
doing that for a long fucking time to actually have the moon down
Yeah.
to know how it works.
And-
But like, yeah, we've been using the sun to tell time with for how long? Sundials, you know?
Yeah. And then you can see how obviously how important it is from like primitive times till now, you know, like especially back before, you know, like it was like this, without that, there was like no source of life. So that's why there's like all the heliocentric models of praising gods. Like it has to revolve around that, because you're like, without that, we're screwed. You know, it's funny, like watching I forget what shows they are, like those shows like on Netflix, how people got to survive out in the wilderness, and they're out there like trying to hang as long as they can. And it's a trip how when the sun goes down, all those wild animals come out to play, and so many people on that show tapped out because of that instance right there. As soon as the sun goes down, there goes like so much of your protection, let alone your food. You know what I mean? So it's like a nourisher, a protector in that way, and a sustaining life. You know?
I think too that what you were saying before that I think is interesting. You mentioned something about like letting the sun in and the light. I mean, how many times I've seen things with like buildings or old architecture that will have stuff specifically built. So depending on where the sun is, the line shines through.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that so many times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Isn't like Stonehenge or like, isn't that kind of shit like that too? Like all those temples and all this stuff, they have it so at certain times of the year, that stuff's supposed to shine through, and it might, God knows what kind of shadow it makes or what kind of things it makes. Like it's probably for these like rituals and stuff.
Yeah, like when we had that kid on and he talked about the Indian tribe, it was like, I think it was 2 or 3 different rocks that were like standing up, and like the way that the sun shined through them did like one like fucking straight line on the wall, and that's how they were like fucking measuring shit by how big how long the line was coming between the rocks or some shit. Shit's
like that. So sick. That shit, like for some reason, hearing you say that makes me feel like I want to get like in a trance. You know what I mean? Like there's so much shit in there. Like I can imagine if I was there, like wow.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like they use that shit, dude. That's why it's so important. Like the sun and the moon. Like the sun is they use that for like the masculine. It's like the masculine archetype of one. You know what I mean? And then the moon will be 2. And that's why in days of the week, we start Sunday 1, and then Monday, moon day 2. It's like 1, 2, you know, that male and female, you know? So yeah, it's, I guess it's like the sun version, how we keep saying the sun, how like Jesus and Horus, like the sun version of the male. And then I think once you do temperance, you know, I have temperance up there. Let's see. So right here, it's like temperance, right?
I'll bring it over a little bit to the other side. The other way. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, and so you have temperance. Right here, you see like on his forehead, he has like that doctor-looking headband, and that's a glyph of the sun. It's yellow with a circle with a dot inside, and he's harnessing, he's balancing for alchemy's sake. It's like he's tempering the waters. And then so here, I use this to like think about tempering the flame that we have inside of, like when you harness that ignition of the Mars flame, that ignition flame of willpower, that shit could be hella crazy, or like it could be very primal, right? So there's I guess a craziness to there that isn't refined. And then when you temper that with the ambition, and then also the Jupiter archetype, that's when you can balance all that fire. And then that's when you can like harness your fear. And then that's like super important for empowerment. And that's why in the beginning of the show, we were saying empowerment, like confidence that's where you get like this solar plexus from, you know, if you have that hard, then yeah, like you have like that real confidence. It'll show in your posture, because we know scientifically that when your posture is like that, if you just fix it, you can really start to feel better. Just
I
by,
know people who have actually gone through shit like that, like actually changing their posture, and we're like, holy fuck.
yeah, it's real.
I have
Like
heard of that and seen it
yeah,
actually.
I've from things like chiropractic work, massage, and working out, and doing like yoga, like that shit. Hello, like you can really feel that, and then you feel the empowerment of it too, and then you
I'll
can
even
feel,
say like a lot of magicians that I knew that were like kind of serious when I was like into magic in the beginning, pretty much the whole time I was into it. There was a lot of people that I know that were like, it's not just always, reading and doing rituals. Like you actually need to like do something with your body as well. It's,
yeah.
mind, spirit, and body,
Yeah, it's mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because sometimes if you have something that's like nagging you, like a nagging shoulder injury or whatever, you're gonna feel nagged, and you're gonna feel like the world is nagging you until you ail these nagging symptoms that you have. You know what I mean? And then it's like that whole thing how like our body is our temple. You have to also kind of treat your temple right, and then that way you'll be able to pray right. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it is mind, body, and soul for sure.
Yeah. And you were saying
They're like just kind of together.
before with temperance, I think we were talking about that prior too. I think with the thing with the temperance, I don't know, maybe you brought it up. It was, and like I was really thinking about it as you were talking about it before again. I think a lot of the temperance might be with like kind of like what you're saying, tempering the ego as well, because like the ego is kind of like the vice for that part of the tree where the sun would fall. So I think maybe the
Yeah,
temperance is even like, in my opinion, if you had that whole, if you were in that spot of where Tiferet of the sun would be, I would think that it could be your ego that's causing the problem to kind of fall back down. And at that point, it's like you have to control, like you said, the fire. Pretty much, it's like from what my experience, and I'll even just say this for me, but I do think it goes with a lot of human beings. If your ego was to maybe be pushed a little bit, that's when you would kind of fall out of balance because you're allowing your ego to. It's hard to explain, but it's like, oh, is somebody questioning me and I'm not what I want them to think, and then you let that fucking shatter you, and then
yeah,
you act out. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're getting fearful and angry because your ego was fucked with. So I
yeah.
think the
That's like those
temperance
mind
card is
games.
like kind of like tempering the ego as well, so you can keep moving farther.
100. It's like those mind games, and then like how we were talking about like Rocky a million times earlier. It's like Frankie fear. Fear is like ego is very tied to fear, right? That's like where that stems from, and then so it's tempering that fear, So and then
I mean, this would even go back to Leo, like I mentioned in the first episode, how I look at Leo as being more of a focused, condensed flame instead of the explosion from Aries. So there
yes,
would even be the same thing, like you were saying before, how you're kind of like tempering the flame. It's not all over the
yeah.
place anymore. It's like the sun symbol, really.
Yeah, yeah, because the other one is more
Focus now.
combustible. Yeah,
Yes.
the other one has a lot more combustion. A lot
Yes.
like that's why the red is like the ignition, like that boom, like that bomb or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the prior episode when we talked about Mars, I tied it in terms of the brain to the brain stem. So if this is our brain stem, the more primal fight or flight, you have to temper this fight or flight area with the analytical side. You have to temper those because if not, that's where all that shit comes from, and your ego will be out of control and playing so many mind games on yourself. Yeah. So and then if you think about it, that makes sense because I'm having red here, red as this stem, and then yellow as this side, as the left side, and then that's orange. That's why orange is the divine will of
Yes.
like Jupiter. Like that's why that one ends up being the king, the more older version, the refined version of the flame, because the sun is still the sun. It's like the initial creation, but it's still like the sun. How the sun is like technically less mature than a king, right?
You see,
So
this
it's
is funny
like the
because
maturity.
before you were saying how like you really don't know much about the Kabbalah, and I was like, oh no, you probably know more than you think you do. In the Kabbalah, or if you were using like talisman, if I was to use Mercury, it would be orange. It would be like neither orange or yellow would be the main color to use, but then as a flashing color, you're going to use blue. And then if you were to use Jupiter, your color would be blue with the flashing color of orange. So Jupiter and Mercury show a relationship to each other that way on the tree. They are both sharing, and they're both across from each other, but the sun's in the middle, but they are directly across from each other. There is a relationship between those two, even though they're crossing to the other side of the tree.
Yeah, there's like they interject in a hand-in-hand type of a way. There's like an exchange.
Yeah, I think, not to get too into it, but I do think like why you're seeing sometimes like crossings on the tree is that those energies kind of got pulled away from where they were supposed to be. And when you're going back up the tree, you're kind of going back to where you were supposed to be originally before shit got twisted. So it can get a little out there, but that's, the easiest way for me.
No, but in terms of that story, because it's like a story of like descending and ascending. So I kind of like that, man. Yeah, it goes. Yeah. So I'd like to share
go for
this one now here. So this one's obviously the sun. That's why how we were talking about a second ago about how one is a little bit more mature than the other in terms of like yellow and orange. So look, see the sun, it's a baby. So a baby is going to be less mature in that way. But isn't like the baby like everyone's like pride and joy. Like when you ask a lot of people, what was like the most special best day of your life? They either say probably like my wedding day, or they say when my firstborn or my kids were born, so it's tied to that. And then it's like everything revolves around, like you say, oh, everything revolves around my kids. Like that's your world now. You know what I mean? And that's where all the perspective, how it's tied to perspective and your identity. So, now I'm a parent, and it's all your perspective, even it's funny. I'm like looking at my mic and my glasses. This is my gold perspective, my yellow perspective. This is where all my thoughts are coming into here condensed, and then my eyes as well. Like I see everything through this lens. This is my perspective lens that I see everything through. You know what I mean? So that's another part of how that deals with like in astrology. That's why people, when they ask you about astrology or what sign, they're really talking about your sun sign. Even though we
that
have
is
a bunch
true.
of them,
Yes.
That's what people are boiling it down to. And then so
it wasn't until I got into Magic that I ever hear anybody ever ask, "Oh, what's your moon sign?" I was like, "What the fuck?" Because like you're saying, like when everybody asks what's your zodiac, it's always just associated with that's actually associated with the sun. There is the moon, the moon's
dude. And honestly, if like for me, I mean, thinking about it, if I'm trying to get to know someone and quickly and stuff like that, because like I just want to get to know like what they're really like, I'm gonna hella want to know their moon sign. That's the sign that they're hiding. That's like behind the scenes, like you know what I mean. What's lurking, in the subconscious realms. That's that one. So I want to know the moon, and then I had a talk with Laura Lavender the other day, and she was talking about ascending, because I've heard that before, that's where you're going. That's where you're always headed. So I'd want to know about ascending and moon, because all the sun sign, like I can read that off bat. Like, people can usually tell people's personality just off a couple seconds of like their front facing personality, and then people don't usually get to know their moon sign until way later on, or unless you guys went through some kind of bonding, or maybe they put their guard down or something like that. But it's more in that vernacular. But but the sun is always first in that way, and it always has like that regal sense of that I am the one, so the I am, and then because for me, in my experience with like healing and stuff like that, and just that I've gotten like my own little like realizations and understandings, when I felt that I am present, or some people even related to Christ consciousness, the biggest thing that I leave with is that the oneness thing. Like I get tripped out on how one everything is with each other, and then the oneness of me, and then I get the feeling and realization that I am like kind of like I'm the only one here in terms of a creation, but that's because we're all the same, and it's like just one voice. The creation is only like one voice. That's kind of where all that comes from. Yeah, with the sun.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Like more or less, like we all come from the same source as having a separate experience. But we all
Yeah.
are connected from something. I do think.
Yeah. Yeah, just a different, we all have different lenses and different perspectives, but in terms of like that level of consciousness, it's like like that's where there's no difference, and that's why it's just one little dot, one minion looking dot, and then that's all it is, and everything revolves around you, and like you're everything, so that's where the wholeness, like you're complete and whole, the complete circle, and then the everything inside that encapsulates everything.
Oh, you know what I wanted to say before again too? You were mentioning the sun and the child. Even when it comes down to the Kabbalah, I think one of the magical symbols, or like one of the the symbols that can be used for the sun, is also a small child.
Oh, nice.
See there again, like more Kabbalah that you knew but you didn't know that you knew.
Right. That's why I was bugging out on our previous show, because I was like, oh shit, all this shit hella ties, like it hella ties around anyway. Like whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, it's going to.
Yeah. So I like that. Yeah. And it's like, I get like, it's like you won. Like, this is like the winner, like everything's shining down on you. Like this person was born into it. You know how some people were born into the legacy, like they knew it all their life. That's the feeling of the sun. Well, you always were. You were born into it, type of thing.
You even think about like kings, their crowns. Probably every crown on their tarot card is all probably made out of gold too.
Yeah. See, I didn't think about that. Yeah. See, yeah, it's very tied. Yeah, very kingly. Because it, like, throughout history, maybe the sun worship might be, in terms of all the different stories and cultures, that might be the most revered, and the one that was the most, like, that held a title the longest and the strongest, kind of just like Ra, the sun god. Yeah.
Is it all right if I show what I have just real quick?
Yeah, please. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the sun.
Sounds
yeah.
Good. And then this will be real fast because I'm just covering some stuff real quick. The numbers for planetary magic that would go along with the sun is 6, 36, 216, and yes, 666. Color, gold, orange, or yellow. Leo is associated with it. Gold again for the metal. Day of the week, I think we all know that. Sunday. Element, fire. Direction, south. Concepts, advancement, dominance, egotism, friendship, greed, healing, illumination, individuality, joy, leadership, personal power, success, will, and wealth. Tools, symbols, the lamen, the lance, the rose cross, and the sword. Some of the deities, Apollo, Baal, Helios, Mithras, Ra, Sol, Archangel. This one, because it's planetary magic, was the same way that you were explaining it. Michael would go along with that. This is the planetary sigil. If anybody just wants to see it real quick, it is also it is a 6x6 square, because it does fall on the sixth sphere of the tree of life. It has a 6x6 magical square. Here's, again, the seal of the sun, the intelligence of the sun, the spirit of the sun. Archangel Michael. Michael was the first angel created and is often seen as the leader of the angels, or first among equals. His name means he who is like God. He is usually shown wielding a sword or lance, and sometimes the scales of justice. I even think sometimes the scales of justice actually represent both sides of your brain. As the other archangels, Michael should be visualized standing about 3 meters tall, and he wears a golden yellow tunic. Michael is the archangel of fire and the sun, and helps those who call him to achieve goals and destinies. Amongst the achievements especially sacred to Michael are marriage and music. If you're seeking to achieve a legitimate goal or need of protection, Michael is the angel you should call to, as he is the defender of the just and is also known as the merciful angel. Michael appears a number of times in the Bible. Michael was the archangel who appeared to Moses as the fire in the burning bush. He also rescued Daniel from the lion's den and informed Mary of her approaching death. Michael appears in Revelations as the leader of the celestial host that defeats the Antichrist. He is also he is the prayer leader in the Hebrew and Islam. Interesting. So
That's nice.
yeah, I just wanted to
like
throw that in there.
Yeah, I like the one where you showed like the 3 signs, like it was 3 sigil signs,
Yes.
and the last one was the one of intelligence. When I saw that, I guess I had heard. I think this one was from Santos Bonacci.
Bonacci? Nice.
He was referencing how there's 3 suns, and so I kind of thought about the 3 right there, the 3, like how there was the intelligence, and I lost the other 2. I didn't catch that one, but
with that magic, with what I was showing, the first sigil or seal is actually like the planetary one. Then there is a spirit and intelligence. I think shit, I already turned it off. I think the last one, I always get these confused, and I should know it from years of dealing with it. One could be looked at as the angel, and then one could be looked at as the demon. So they're actually, could be very different. Yeah. Almost the vice and the virtue of the sun as well.
The shadow of the sun.
Yeah. And what's funny is I think the one that I showed prior that was the demon sigil for the sun does look like it has an anchor. So I had even wondered, like, does that have something to do with it?
Yeah.
Like, are you getting anchored back down?
Totally. I see this.
Yeah.
And like, if you think about it, how we're talking about like the demon side or the shadow side, it's like, which one is the brightest out of all these? The sun, okay? It's physically and the other ways. And if it's the brightest, it must be the darkest, right? So then that's where the egotism, that's why the egotism can spawn from there, right? Initially, then the other ones, but like the actual, I think like the egotism can like spawns from there, and then that's like our judgments. That's why we got to be like, you got to, just kind of be on top of your judgments. Like, it's good to use them when you need to, but then it's a fine line, and that's what we're here for, is learning that fine line. And then we're like refining ourselves. We're refining, and then keeping
the scales balanced.
Yeah, that's where the empowerment comes in. As you refine, then you get stronger and stronger.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So now, which one was it? Mercury or Venus? You wanted to move on to next?
Venus. Yeah. So Venus right here, the green right after the yellow, and so this is the heart chakra, and so you think about love, you think about beauty, you think about fertility, and heart is like it's also an anagram for earth in a way when you unscramble the letters. And in terms of the cosmos, the earth is like the heart of everything out there. It's like the heart of it. In terms of, if it was chakras, like it's like the heart. And then also it's like the springboard to wherever else you want to go. It's like a key. Like if you don't know how to go through the heart, like when you get out of here, it's going to be hard to go like where you would like to go, per se, because you didn't go through your heart.
You know what's funny? I covered Nightmare on Elm Street and Michael Myers. Did I tell you that earlier? Maybe I didn't. I don't remember.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, I covered that, and you were talking about Venus, and there was a part in Michael Myers where I am positive it literally showed you her traveling on the tree. And in that time that she's traveling on the tree, who is, I forgot her name already. The main chick in Halloween. She's leaving her house, which is the number 8. The address is 1115 8. She's in green. I think she is the maiden. And her father is a real estate agent, which would go along, in my opinion, with Mercury, a salesman. Because I've said that plenty of times before. Mercury, a good way to show Mercury. If you're slick with the mouth and there's a little bit of business in there, you'd be a great salesman. Her father's a real estate salesman, and he's giving her the keys to go drop off at Michael Myers' house because he's got to show it to her later. The prince just gave the princess the fucking key to go bring up to 1000 Mission Street, which could have been Kether for all I know that they meant it as, because that was the address for Michael Myers' house, 1000 Mission Street. She could have been, but she had the key, and she dropped it off somewhere else. So that is very weird now that you're talking about the whole key thing. It has the key.
Yeah,
Is that the key
I
that
use the word
Janice gets?
springboard.
Janice gets the key from from the princess and then becomes the king.
Yeah, yeah. That's why people like I've heard Lux talk about it before, where it's like, man, it's like you like with your mind and your heart, you have to bridge them, and then that's
Yes,
where
yes.
like that's where like that's where you can feel like the limitless of life, and you can start to kind of reap those rewards, and especially in the future, I think it's really important for like when we actually transition from here, the heart work, because someone with a heart block, it's like, damn, dude, like it's hard in my opinion. That might be one of the hardest ones to recover from, because of how people are here in terms of like our vulnerabilities, and also like with our ego, like the vulnerabilities of our ego. I think if someone ends up getting like their heart broken, or how I say you get your heart cracked, that's like you want to really bring that one back, you know what I mean, as best you can. Yeah. And yeah, so
Sorry, I took you off there too, but
yeah,
took you off
no,
your
man.
health.
And so let me see here. I got this shit on me here too. It's like, I'm gonna show you guys. I'm sorry, I'm pulling this out of my freaking pocket, because I got this. I put it in my tiny little pocket. So here it's like green, right? So I use this for like a heart chakra, and then
Nice.
it's like you
What kind
want
of
to
stone is that, if you don't mind me asking?
fuck some kind of, I forgot the, I don't know. I forgot. I want to
Okay.
say dragon something or other.
Oh,
And
okay, all right, yeah, that one kind of
and
green in it.
and the thing is though, with your heart, there's like
Oh,
imagine
dragon's
around,
blood. What is that? Green and have specks of red on it?
it
That
wasn't
stone?
dragon blood, it was dragon something.
So
I
dragon stone.
forget.
I'm sorry, dragon stone, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's supposed to be green,
yeah.
and then has the red supposed to supposedly represent the blood of Jesus spilling on the floor.
Oh, okay. I don't think this one's blood. It was God, I
No.
forgot. This was a while ago, but it's like people have like, it's like a courtyard, and so around your courtyard of your heart, it's like almost like the gates where you can either let someone in or let someone out, right? So the important thing is that you have to like go higher. In just in this chakra, like there's this a concept of you have to go higher, because it even makes sense like in that old Blavatsky stuff, or the old like that old shit. For this one, they called it harmony through conflict. So there's gonna be conflict here around your heart in order to kind of find your harmony. So you always have to go higher. Because imagine me and you get in an argument and it disrupts our harmony. We both have to kind of go higher in a way. We have to find a way to get through this, right? And when you go higher, that's when you get like the pink. See, the pink is also tied to the heart. So first you start with here, and then you go up here to pink. And then that's when you went higher in your heart. That's when you get a springboard, like bing, bing, bing. And then that's when you can jump off and springboard to wherever you belong, really belong in the cosmos afterwards. Like you'll be able to feel like you're in control of that, because your heart didn't get like screwed with or whatever. So yeah, that was really important.
I used to use fibrous malachite, very green, green stone. I used to use that when I worked with Venus.
Yeah,
Or that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I gotta go. I need to get some more, because I don't know. I just like getting them. I haven't bought any in a while, but I get mine now. There's this lady at Pier 39, and she has pretty good prices and pretty good stuff compared to the ones where you go like in different regular areas of San Francisco. The prices are just freaking up the wazoo, man. And I was like, God damn it! Like, just like hook me up with some rocks, man. And so yeah,
and then I've been to places that is so cheap, it's like you almost swear like this shit has to be fake. Like I don't even think these are real stones. Like for fucking $2.
Because then there's that bulky stuff
so.
you can get on Amazon, right? Like you can buy it through bulk there. But then that's something about them. I don't know. I never really done the bulk one like that, because I want to be able to like see it and like almost like have it call me, or have me get some kind of like where I feel something with it, like it's like a compatibility. So I found an old lady at a Fisherman's Wharf where it's pretty good price. And pretty decent stuff. But all right, so with Venus, Morning Star, Lucifer, that one's tied. That one is a big one, because of the whole Morning Star thing. And so you see how they talk about how it was like the prettiest, he was like the prettiest one, the prettiest angel. That was like one of the versions of the pride. I want to say one of the early versions of the pride was through like that whole pretty thing, like thinking you're like the best one or whatever, right? And it's funny because I guess I'll talk about myself. Like, so my real name's Luis, right? And then in school they would call me Louis as a kid growing up. And then even like my friends, like my older friends, and even like my OGs, like my dance OG mentor people, they would just call me Louis, because I guess it was easier for them to say. And but as a kid, because I'm like a junior technically, as a kid, my baby nickname as a baby was Lucci. Like that's what my dad called me, right? And so that's kind of like Lucy in a way, right? And I'll tell you this, man. Like now I can talk about it, but back then I like damn near renounced that name growing up, because only like my close like friends who would come to my house, they would hear that name. They're like, "What did they call you? Like, what is like? Wait, what are they calling you?" And I was like kind of ashamed of that name, because I always felt very feminine with that name.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
because like Lucci is
especially
like
with
it
kids.
sounds feminine, and also like Lucy, right? Like Lucy. And I was like, oh man. And so I never tripped off that. Like I didn't embrace that name until like later on in life. And so because it was so feminine and tied to that, in terms of like Lucifer, he has a feminine and a masculine side. And so the feminine side of Lucifer is Venus, is tied to Venus. So yeah, that's how I see that one. And like when you say Venus, like the beginning of Venus is Ven, right? VEN. And then in Spanish, when you say that, it means to come. It means like come, right? Like come here. So now with that context, when I ask you, hey, bro, what do you think about when you hear the word come? Like, be honest. What's the first
no,
thing that
that's
comes
where I
to
thought
mind?
you were going with it. Honestly, when you said
What's
it,
the
I thought
first thing
that's where
that
we're
comes to
going.
mind is,
Yeah.
it's sex, right?
This is
And
very
so
interesting.
come is associated with sex, and then that's where all that, the fertility and the love and all that, that's how all that's tied into the femininity of that. So that's a part of Lucifer's tied to that sex, that sexual thing where he liked to claim like the prettiest or whatever. And it's funny too, because I guess I also tie the word six to sex, because in numerology, when I was reading about that, it talked about how imagine like you're in a school, right, with your classmates, and there's like one or two hot chicks. One or two of those hot chicks, they were born on the six, or they might have been born on something that added up to six, like maybe like 15 or 20, 24, but something that adds up to six on their birthday, because they're the hot chicks, they're the sexy chicks. So six is like sex. And it was funny because I've talked about with my buddy Laura Lavender. I talked about my eraser head, and how in astrology I'm like a bucket shaped in terms of my chart. And so the eraser head, I was like, where did I get this eraser head from? And when I went at my grandparents' house, I saw this old vintage looking photo of my great grandfather, right? And he had the eraser head. And I was like, oh, that's where I got that head from, like that eraser head, right? I was like, I see it now, because I never saw anyone with it, right? And then I was like, what's his name? And then they told me Sixto. His name was Sixto, so six, And it's funny because I'm born on 10/6. I'm also a sixer. You know what I mean? So this shit all ties to that, to Venus. And that's why I have Libra and Venus all over my damn shit, like all over my chart and stuff like that. And so it's funny because I see it all, like I've seen it in my family with different archetypes, and then I have mine. And so now.
Oh, you know what I wanted to say real quick? I think it's interesting how I'm glad you brought up Lucifer, because when it comes to the Kabbalah, if you were to like really get into any of that stuff, it's going to associate with the image for Netzach, which would be Venus, as a beautiful naked woman. So either way you're looking at it, it's supposed to be something that's attracting your eyes. Yeah. Something that looks good to you. And I think what you were saying before with Ven meant like to come here.
Yeah.
It would really, I do think it's almost as if, this is how I kind of start looking at it. I think it's more as you are seeing something with your eyes that is enticing you and pulling you away from where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
And I
Yeah,
have even
very-
thought of like a lot of stuff like, all right, Venus, like you were saying, the morning star, or Lucifer, it's the brightest star we'll see in the sky in the morning. You know, it's the first one or whatever. I also think like when it comes to the Kabbalah, this is where I think people get fucked up on it, is I do think those spheres do have a masculine and feminine energy associated with them, but sometimes you just only seeing one side of it. Yeah. I think that the male and the female, you know, do fit on all of them. I think to a point, it's almost basically whatever the system, like I take it as a light bulb, really. The light bulb and what's inside there, all that shit that's making that shit glow, whatever it's supposed to be, that's in structured form or whatever that's in there would be the feminine part. And then the light that actually emanates from it, the projective energy that is coming from it, is now the male energy.
Yeah.
Which is why I could see now Lucifer fitting in, because that is the male energy that's actually emitting from the source that is the female energy.
Yeah, when you're saying that, in my mind, I just see the torch now. You know, like we talk, you know, like even like Statue of Liberty, we know that that's like that was an old French homage to Lucifer. So with a torch, and then with a torch, you're bearing a torch. So the part when you bear something, that's like besides bearing witness, you bear children, right? So that's like the feminine part when you're pregnant. And then once you light the torch, like once the torch has been transferred, that's with the expansive, when it changes like that, when it changes to masculine. Yeah, it's definitely tied to that. And how you were saying earlier, there's like a pull or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's
like
that.
Come here.
I
it's
guess
so
like
enticing.
that temptation, you know?
Yeah, well, because you've
that
been
temptation,
saying,
and that's why.
Like Lucifer was supposed to be very good looking,
because,
and then in the Kabbalah, it's associated with a naked, beautiful, naked woman. It's both things that you're seeing with your eyes to entice you.
Yeah, and then it makes sense that's why Venus is like about like the embracing like the joy and the happiness of things that make you feel good, right? So it could be, you know, it could be getting like you know, how women get a pedicure, things like that, or how, you know what I mean, like different things that make you feel good. And so it's tied to that. So some people have vices associated with that. And what do I think about with like a vice of a sin? I think of lust. It's lustful, right? And again, it's lust. It's like tied to that, you know, to that version of vice. Yeah.
When I was, you know, heavily into practicing magic, a lot of times when I worked with Venus, I would just kind of work with Hathor. And part of the things, you know, with her that could be associated with her, she's a fan of music, dancing, feasts. You know, this is all like, you know, lively things that you get excited about. And then she could also be associated with the mirror, because you got to look at yourself. You got to, I'm so fucking beautiful.
Yes.
You know, or then a sistrum.
For vanity.
Yeah, and then sometimes she's known to have a sistrum with her, which is kind of like something to do with sound. It's a whole other topic. But like you just right there with Hathor, you already got like food, parties, music, hanging out, and then, oh, look at myself.
And what day of the week do people like to start their party off?
Friday.
That's the Venus day. See, so that's when everybody is like, oh, tonight I'm going to put on my brand new shirt or my brand new blah, 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 my brand new shoes. And I'm going to look all fashionable. Like they're all fashion, you know, like for male and female, the best dressed person who wins that award in high school, they're Venus people. They're really into fashion. They make it a thing a girl makes it a thing to do her hair every day, to take a lot of time with that.
So everybody looks at you.
To match his outfits. He wants to be like that. And
you're telling everybody, instead of come here, you're telling everybody, look here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, maybe they want that too, but
yeah, it goes both ways, you know, like I guess like in terms of like a male Venus guy, it's like they're usually like how people say, oh, he's like a pretty boy, or maybe they'll have feminine features where like they're kind of chiselly, like lean and chiselly face, like kind of feminine, you know, kind of like, and they look like that. And if a Venus guy was at a bar, you know, I think about they usually want to bring the party, like whatever party they had, to the bar, and then they party like that, or they want to bring the bar to their party. You know what? So they're trying to round up the troops and be like, hey, well, I got a spot over here afterwards if you guys want. Like, they're the ones.
It's like the person leaving at the rave trying to get everybody to go to the after hours with them.
Yeah, they're the ones negotiating that for people like Jupiter.
Let's keep
and Mars
going.
who they like that stuff, but maybe they don't have as as much of a pull as, in that department, so they end up negotiating. It's kind of like that. Yeah. So it's like
Oh, what tarot cards? Did you have any tarot cards picked out
yeah,
for
yeah.
this? I'm
Let
interested
me
in
show
which
you
ones
here.
you have.
I was
for that.
about to do that. I forgot. Here.
No, it's all good.
So first, I want to show
I'll bring
you
it up a little. Yeah. Okay.
the Empress. So here you see already that there's the Venus sign right there, right? So and it's green too. So just like the heart chakra, it's green, and she's the one that when I see, because in terms of masculine and feminine, the main ones is Mars and this one right here, Venus, in terms of just depicting the feminine and masculine components. That's why Mars has that arrow looking thing, which is like a similar to a phallus. And here it's just like a regular stick figure, which signifies just come here, just kind of like come over here and sit with me. Like they don't have to do anything. You're going to come to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like how a woman will just attract, like you're just going to come to me. I don't have to be like Mars and shoot out to you. It's like the opposite power. And
I didn't know. I can't remember if I brought it up. I'm sure I did on the last episode, but I don't remember. Are you a fan, or have you ever seen Twin Peaks?
No.
Oh, see, now there's a girl, Laura. It's all centered around basically who killed Laura Palmer. And there's this chick, Laura, and it's a very weird show, and it's a weird movie. And I do believe she's playing the Scarlet Whore. And she goes herself and says, "Sometimes my arms bend back." Just a weird fucking quote. And if you were to take Venus and Mars and think of them as a head and a stick figure, this is what you're seeing.
Ah, yes.
And this, in magic, if you're doing the hexagram ritual, can be the sign of Apophis and Typhon, which is kind of like the rising beast.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
It's just a wild, bugged out thing.
Those two signs are like they're polar in a way, but that's because it's like the masculine and feminine aspects. But it's funny because you'll hear stories that Venus is also like the feminine version of war. It's just that like Mars will be the one in war where he's like gung ho, like guns a blazing, like I'm gonna go in there and just fuck it all up, right? Venus's version of war is very strict, like very plan based. Like they're gonna trap you. They're gonna trap you like that. Yeah, it's a different version of war. Yeah. So so I talked about the best dress. Oh, so here anyway. So the other one that I have is
and that
right
Emperor's
here.
card too that you had up before. That's like the third card in the tarot. I think that's really the first, I think, card that you might have that's really actually like feminine. Like that's the top of all feminine stuff, pretty much out of the major arcana.
Yeah, like the beginning of it. Yeah, the beginning.
She's
of
like I would say I think the head bitch of all of them.
Royalty. Yeah, like the beginning of the feminine royalty. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you have the Fool and the Magician.
I was talking about. Yeah, and then what is it? The High Priestess. Yeah, I think that's number 2. Yeah, so that's another. That's like we'll talk about that one. I have the Moon for that one, but anyway, so here I have the Lovers, and so think about it. You're making love. That's like sex, right? And then look, it's number 6. I keep talking about 6 with this one, like how my great grandpa Sixto and Ven and then all the hot chicks are born on like something. It's like 6. And then when I first saw this card, what stuck out to me personally was the hair, how there's green in the hair. So I feel that like a version of like the Empress, like this is kind of like an angelic version of the Empress because it's like the angel in the background, and then it has the tie to the green with the hair. And then so I think about, and then it's like a trinity, but it's like a weird trinity, you know what I mean? And so this is the Lovers, I think, and then so love and beauty. So this one's also another version of Venus. I think it's kind of like when it goes to like it's some kind of guardian angel or some kind of angelic watcher type of a one.
The Lovers card that I have, and this is just my take on that, I think it's kind of showing you like the streams crossing maybe when they shouldn't be, because it's, I guess, depending coming down the tree. The one that I have, it kind of shows like the female looks like she's like chained to a rock, and like the male is like coming to save her from like some serpent coming out of the water. And I even like thought like, is that like playing the whole damsel in distress. Come save me.
Oh yeah.
Come save me. You know, some beautiful
Yes.
woman that needs my help. I'm gonna come
Yes.
save.
You have to rescue and be the valiant rescue hero.
So like I think that's again showing me the come here.
Yes.
You're not supposed to, but come over here and this is how I'm tricking you into doing it.
Yes. So different powers and a different call. You know what I mean? And then lure. So here again with the lure, right? To lure someone, and then how the Virgin of War for Venus is like you're gonna bait and trap them. You're gonna lure them in there, and then they'll be stuck. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's pretty much.
All right, let me see what I have.
Pretty much what I got for
sounds
for
good.
Venus. Yeah.
I'll pull up mine real quick, go through this, and then we'll head on to the next one. So yeah, this one, Venus. Oh, it's up on the screen already. Numbers 7, which is where it does fall, the 7th sphere on the Tree of Life, Netzach, 49, 343, and 777. Color, green or pink. Rules, Taurus or Libra. Something I did want to mention also earlier is that when you were talking about pink, in the Kabbalah, there's certain, there's king scales. I think the king colored scale for the sun, or I'm not, no, I think that's probably gold. I think salmon, or, like a pinkish color, is actually associated with the moon too.
Oh.
Not the moon, the sun. So I find it interesting how they are kind of sharing a color that isn't their major one. You know what I'm saying? How like Venus we would go with green, and the sun we would automatically go with gold, but they do, I think, kind of share pink.
Yeah, that's
even
cool.
though it's not the main color you'd associate with it.
I didn't even know these were in sync like that. That's how cool how they tie in there. I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? That's so cool.
Sometimes I think like this is what I think. This is just me. I think like the green or the gold is like the original vibration, and as you start to change vibrations and move on to the next one, the color changes. So that's why you will see a change. Like I think the spheres all have 4 colors associated with them. So I think that's like the changing they go through before they go to the next.
Oh.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of like I think the change of like once your vibration rate has changed so much, you're kind of like now you're just something else. You're not even what you were. Yeah. So that's how like you kind of bounce around the tree, something like that.
Yeah, hence like the springboard thing, because it's like a transition.
Yeah, again, yes, exactly.
Yeah, like if you can't get through the springboard, it's like how are you gonna really transition around?
Yeah, like on the Tree of Life, if you look at like there's a sphere and then there's a line going to like whatever sphere, like to me that would be like that's the color, and then in between that line you're changing whatever frequencies to get to the next one, and there's going to be a color change within there. So like I do think like a lot of that, that's my take on it. Whatever.
Yeah.
The day of the week is Friday. Element is Earth. The direction is center. Concepts, attraction, art, beauty, culture, emotions, fertility, grace, inspiration, jealousy, love, passion, pleasure, self-confidence, sensuality, sexuality, and sociability. Tools, the belt, the girdle, the harp, and the necklace. Deities, Aphrodite, Astarte, Hathor, Inanna, Ishtar, Lucifer, or Venus. The archangel is Uriel. Here is the sigil for Venus. And it's a 7x7 square because it's the 7th sphere on the Tree of Life. There's the seal of Venus. That is the intelligence, and that is the spirit. Archangel Uriel. Uriel, also known as Uriel or Oriel, is the archangel of Venus and of Earth and of peace and salvation. His name means light of God, and he is often depicted with a flame or lamp in his hands. Uriel embodies the power of light as illumination and spiritual passion. Uriel is associated with magical power and the application of force. As such, he is the angel to help cause a positive breaking of bonds when needed in overcoming inertia, being able to go with the flow of the winds of change. He is also the patron of astrology and has been linked strongly with electricity. I think that's what Magick's all about. Uriel is credited with being the angel who gave alchemy and the Kabbalah to man. Uriel was the angel who helped inspire Abraham to lead the Jews out of Ur. As one of the most powerful archangels, Uriel is said to be the bearer of the keys to hell, standing as guardian to that infernal realm. Uriel is usually seen standing about 3 meters tall with a beautiful face. He wears an emerald green robe and carries a copper lamp in his hand.
Damn. That's crazy. The keys to hell. The keys to hell. And then we're talking about, I'm saying it's the heart. You know what I mean? Because without that one, and so I think those are the
see,
keys.
that could be like, again, like he could have the keys to hell because that's where the vice is going to take you. You're like, you don't know, like, sometimes I think, like, you got to look at how, that's what I'm kind of thinking with that. And, there was something I was going to say. Oh, I can't remember now. Damn it.
Yeah.
Something I was going to say about something I read.
With the winds of change, with Lucifer, I thought, how there's a prince power of air thing. You know what I mean? And then that with Uriel, right? I think of, like, I always just kind of think about the base of the word. So right? So it's not me, it's it's like, you're always doing this. Like, it's not me, it's and then so with
you're the problem. You're the problem.
Yeah, it's like you're like an automatic mirror, right? And I guess, like, when I've tried to learn about myself and, like, my name, like, I'm like, well, what's Lu? Like, what's a Lu, right? Because that, like, if we're all like plants and creatures, like, I'm a Lu. If I was a plant, I'm a Lu plant. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, well, what is it? And so you've heard the phrase, like, in lieu of, right? That means, like, in replacing, in turn, right? And then the grass is greener on the other side. It's kind of like you're always flipping around. And then that's the same thing with you're always, it's not me, it's no matter where it is, it's right back at you. So there's something with the power of that. It's like a mirroring power that you're always giving it back. That's something of like, I guess, how the heart works too. It's like it does something like that. Yeah, it's always giving it back out, and it's always it's like a weird mirror.
Because in the movie Mother, with an exclamation point, I bring it up all the time. I think it's a great movie to show. Like, I think it's very occult. To me, it's very Gnostic or Kabbalistic. There's a lot of occultism, and at the end, when she is done being the Scarlet Whore and just fucking ruining everything, and everything's been burnt down to the ground in ashes, and he's fucking, the main character is holding her and walking with her. He's like, well, I need to create again. And she's like, I've got nothing left. The only thing I've got left is love. And he's like, well, I need that. You're going to have to give that to me so I can create again. And he takes it from her. And then the whole movie looks like it starts up again, but now he wakes up the next morning with a different chick in the bed. Looks like the whole scene starting all over again.
Nice.
So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, man. Yeah, so that's Venus. It's weird because, like, with the whole Lucifer thing, it's like I've heard before that, like, Lucifer, like, holds the amnesia of here, in a way. And then so that's why there's like the forgetting, and that's why here we're trying to remember, like, who we are, and like
it captivates you so well you forget who you were. You fall so in love with this world you forget where you came from.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I be tripping out.
That looks so nice. That looks so nice. Regardless if it's a male or female, anything now, just objects look beautiful and enticing, and people lust over. It doesn't even have to be a human.
Yeah, you just get wrapped up in it, and then that's why I be tripping out here, because I guess now I've learned to, like, I just never really resonated with her that much. Like, that's why I always kind of felt weird. But it's just a trip now that I'm kind of out there like that, and I see everyone just so wrapped up in the minuscule. I'm like, oh my god, it's like a type of, like, I don't know, like a type of freaking hypnosis or like a spell or something like that. And yeah, so it has like those kind of powers as well, for sure. And so with that forgetting, it's like you want to know thyself, and then I think once you start getting into like those things of digging inside like that, that's when the occult will start to make itself out to you. Like, you'll end up, that world will start coming out at you, and then
like that old saying, what is it? When the student seeks, the teacher will appear.
exactly.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
I think that happens,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, it
Yeah.
could come with a book or a
And so
video
like,
or something. It doesn't have to be a specific person, but I think if you're open and you start questioning, it'll just start coming to you.
yeah, like I feel that something about like Lucifer is because it's a very polarizing subject, and because of with the amnesia thing and God knows all the other stuff it's tied with for sure, the shadow aspects but I think there's also the thing of when you want to try to remember these occult topics are going to end up coming back into your life, and then that's like a sign that you're working with that energy.
Oh, you know what was weird?
Yeah.
When we covered the Kabbalah, it might have been in episode 3. I think we even got into a thing where Lux was like even showing you how I think like the light reflect, the way light goes into your eyes and all that shit. If you look at it, it almost looks like the Lucifer sigil as well.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
because
a
like,
good
well, I
point.
think
I
what
mean,
we were getting
that's
at
interesting.
is that what we were getting at is that Lucifer is like the deceiver of your vision. You know, like it
Yeah,
all is about just mind fucking you with visually. You know.
yeah, yeah. Was starting to get into the whole concepts of like oneness and like there's no separation and all that stuff, that was something that I was making it very adamant to myself to not trip off the things with your eyes. You know what I mean? I was like I was trying to teach myself that this shit with my eyes, it doesn't really mean shit. I had to try to get over that before in order to kind of get my sight back as best I could, and then that your thoughts aren't what your eyes see. It's like the mind behind the thoughts. It's like the mind behind the eyes. It's behind the eyes where you can get like your real observation. Because if you try to observe from right up in here, it's like you're going to be caught up in nothing but pure 3D, like pure 3D. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be like in pure 3D. I want to embrace the 3D, but not be like just completely involved in 3D where like how before I was giving all my time to like things like football and like sports betting and all these things like fantasy football. And it's like, it can be fun and all, but then the way that I was doing it, it was just so extreme where you could tell that I'm a product of here. And then so I had to learn to just kind of try to undo that, to undo my eyeballs. And then yeah, so I guess that's tied to that for sure.
Yeah, I was. This will be a good way to segue into Mercury, I guess. Before, when I was talking about Hathor, I even like I was saying how I think that Lucifer can also be like, you know, the mind fucking you, you know, visually. Then I also think, you know, sound that comes along with that too, which I mean is all the same thing, light and sound.
Yeah.
That's why she has the sistrum because it makes sound, and then she has the mirror to show you that, you know, the beauty or vision. But
What's
then,
the sistrum? Can I
the
ask?
sistrum,
Sorry.
it is like, fuck, it almost looks like an ankh, but in the middle of it, there are like these like little poles, and they kind of have stuff like you can make your own, like with bottle caps, believe it or not. I think you could take like bottle caps, metal bottle caps from like soda. I've seen people make their own. And
Yeah.
put them on there, and you basically shake it. It's like a fucking baby rattle, almost, literally.
Uh-huh.
It goes
Yeah.
like that. So,
Oh, okay.
so now like,
I kinda, yeah.
on the bottom of the tree, you have Venus right across from Mercury. So now if you take sound and you start taking that towards to Mercury, what is Mercury known for? Speech, language, names, you know, writing, speech, name, you know, that's all sound. If you didn't have a name to call, how could I get your attention? You have a name, and I will say Louis, and that is sound, and you will turn your head.
Yes. Yeah. You know, yeah, so like in the very first thing I was gonna mention about that is like with Mercury, I think of like the master of tones and communication.
Yeah,
So
communication.
through the
Yeah.
tones and how you vibrate the tones, there's your communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I guess we're gonna talk about Lucifer then because we kind of were already here. And so what I was gonna talk about is and then you mentioned how in the tree they're like right after another.
Yeah, they're right next to each
Pretty
other.
much
Both
the
on the
image
bottom.
that I have, right? Like the image that I have in my head is like the torch. So it's like imagine if like here's like the torch, like the feminine part, like right here is where the masculine, and it's gonna end on Mercury. So what I was gonna say is my point is that I think that the feminine aspect of Lucifer is Venus, and then I think the masculine part of him is Mercury. And then that's where the communication, and that's why you've heard like things about how Lucifer is tied to like AI, because when it gets masculine, and then that's where all this communication comes from. And
Electricity.
then yeah, and then so I think like the shadow version of Lucifer is like the bad AI, like the AI that is like out on its own, like, and then and it's tricky, it's trickery. And then speaking of trickery with Mercury, I think of Loki,
Mm-hmm.
the trickster god. And then so even Loki, it kind of sounds similar to Lucci or Luke. It's like it's also kind of similar with the L, like too, and but it's the masculine version. And so it ends with that. So in I think in terms of like the Lucifer story, it started with the pride of the prettiest and all that other kind of shit. And then now what we're seeing more now is the after effects of when it went to Mercury. And then that's why all this technology is fucking uh the way it is, and there's a lot of confusion with that. And so it's pretty it's interesting in that way. Yeah, and so yeah, with Lucifer, I think that's just kind of what happened. That's like its masculine part playing out, and I think even with like the whole stuff of like Thoth and all that, I think with that Mercury archetype, I think all that shit started good, and then somehow later on it turned. Like then it got to really deceiving. I heard these things about how Thoth ended up having a deceiving nature as well. So it's like it's a little
Yes.
it's like both, and
He's
then
even associated
that's
with
when it gets
magic.
tricky, huh? Yeah,
Because he,
and like
if I remember correctly, I think even though Isis brought Osiris back, it was Thoth's magical spell that he gave her that did it. He wrote
mm,
the ritual for her to
yeah,
bring him back. And then
okay,
it's
yeah.
funny how we were talking about before about how I think certain areas are getting like the tree is actually like certain things are getting pulled to the side where they shouldn't belong. Now you're saying like Mercury, it's masculine, right? But yet it's on the left pillar, which is the feminine pillar. I don't think it's supposed to be over there. I think that's showing you that it's been pulled somewhere it's not supposed to be. Just like the last sphere was telling you, it's going to happen with sight and sound.
Yeah, like I also think there's something like
And,
like
and believe it or not, a hermaphrodite is the
you're taking
symbol.
the words out of my mouth. I
The
was just about to
hermaphrodite
say
is the
that.
symbol for Mercury or Hode on the Tree of Life.
Yeah, and dude, and then hence like I think that's where like hermetic principles like Herm, you know what I mean? It's funny because there's something with hermetic and with Lou that ties in, and then yeah, like there's like a famous guy, well, not like a ghetto celebrity famous guy. His name is called Herm Lou, and he's like and people around the Bay Area know him as like an old OG for helping unify a lot of like the gangs that were in the Bay Area or like in San Francisco and all the different gangs. He was like someone that was trying to unify and try to be like a peace person with all the different and he was very like philosophical even though he was like in the hood. And but there's something with that and like hermaphrodite, and that's why I think that Mercury is actually it's like both, like and how it's like tied to angel, because Mercury was the messenger, right? So like even here it's like you'll see that this guy kind of has like a Mercury vibe, and he has the little wings right there, and then so he can like fly around. He can go from the spirit world to the physical and be like the bridge, just how like an angel is like the bridge. And angel is a name for a boy or a girl. You know, it happens to be my middle name. You know
Oh,
what I
okay.
mean? And then so yeah, and then so in terms of my middle name, I've tied it to Mercury. Like I've had my relationship with Mercury like that or something. You know what I mean? Like I've learned about it, especially like in writing. I guess like I could feel it, and yeah. So there's something for sure like hermaphroditic about
Yeah.
about that whole thing. It's like the conversion because we know that Venus is feminine, and then once you convert it and you light up like you light the torch, like you finally bared the children and you shot the children out. That was like the beginning of the angel, where the angel could be both, like either or. Yeah, because we started masculine. We started Mars masculine, Jupiter masculine, Sun masculine, and then and now feminine. This was kind of neutral, and then it's gonna go feminine. It's like the feminine side. Once you get to the higher chakras, and then it's like with Mercury, like how it's trickster god. I think of like straight up luck, like just the general word of luck, because you can have good luck, you can have bad luck, right? Like roller coaster luck. With Venus, I didn't mention, but I think of more like fortune. Like luck is tied to fortune. Like it's
the Wheel of Fortune card does go up a little bit higher on that tree. Jupiter is above Venus on the tree, so I mean it does.
See, it's tied to that.
A lower arc of it.
Yeah. Like we had mentioned that Jupiter, in terms of the luck, it's the good luck. And then with Venus, I think it's more like fortune, like Lady Luck or like Lady Fortune. There's like a goddess like that. I guess they call her Fortuna, but it's basically Lady Luck. That's Lady Luck.
I wonder if that's where they got fortune from.
Yeah. And then with Mercury, though, on the other hand, that's the one where it could be more sketch, because it could be good luck or bad luck. You could either have a good run at the poker room or a bad run at the poker room, or a roller coaster ride. It's the epitome of a roller coaster ride, because it's like kind of like a hermaphrodite in terms of that luck.
Before when you mentioned Hermes and you mentioned Hermetic.
Yeah.
One, I think that Hermetic, that's a word in itself. I mean, like the Kabbalah that I talk about is the Hermetic Kabbalah. People can take that so many ways, as saying sealed. I think, I also like to bring up the fact that if you think of a Hermetic engine, it literally has a dome on top of it. Now, I do believe in the dome theory, so maybe that's how I also think Hermetic might also fall into that. But I also think that like Hermes, or like the Hermetic thing, over in Mercury, where it shows, or Hode, when it uses the hermaphrodite, I think that might also be showing both sexes coming together, both sexes also being put into form, in a sense of like, technically, we're kind of hermetically sealed ourselves, aren't we? I mean, I'm not pouring out anywhere unless they piss of shit. You know what I'm saying? Nothing's coming out. Has both sexes now been sealed? How are they both in the flesh now? Because then after you come down like the tree,
principle of gender.
Yes, that too. I also think the idea of gender, or the construction of gender, even happens there. I do think that as well. And then coming down the rest of the tree, the only place you got left now after that is the moon, and that goes along with birth, and then Earth. So like it kind of really just fits that whole thing.
And that's fun. Oh, that's crazy that you're saying that, because that's exactly where I was going next as like my main one, because I think I said it in the first, I think in our prior one, that in my opinion, the moon is actually the last one, because I think the final one of the crown, it's actually like, it doesn't count almost. Like it's like I consider it more like a barometer. So it's almost like it's there to like culminate all of them. It's like a little bit separate than the other main ones. And so that's funny that you said that just the moon's left, because that's how I feel about it too. You know what I mean? In terms of like the main ones. Yeah. The other one's more like a barometer or something. Yes. Like with Mercury in Spanish you say miércoles, right? For Wednesday. So mierc sounds like Mercury, mierc, right? So there's the base word again. So the base words just keep showing you a lot of stuff, or it could be like anagrams. You know how earth and heart, you know what I mean, are anagrams. So I learned a lot from breaking it down like that, just with anagrams, or like the base of the word. I just try to just kind of dive in them, or like dissect them a little bit, and the shit keeps on coming tried and true. It keeps it's like I mean, it shows you a bit of magic right there. Like, yes, our language could be used to fuck you up. You know how people make each other say good morning? Like, why am I mourning something, like as if I'm in a death cult? Like, I don't need to mourn anything. I didn't lose it. I didn't lose anything, right? But at the same time, there's like a magic to it. At the same time, like I've learned that you could really learn from it too, once you just kind of dissect it and even add colors and stuff into it. This shit works pretty cool. Yeah. So let's see. Aluminum aluminum's the metal, right? So for this, I get like, I don't know, even though Wolverine's thing ain't made out of aluminum, but I just think of like aluminum, like how shiny it is and how crispy it is, and it's like, whooshing, it's like very, very sharp. You know what I mean? And so that's why Mercury is like sharp and swift and cunning. That's why I used to like
sharp with the tongue.
That's why, like the merchants, like yeah, like that's why the merchant stuff goes for Mercury, because that guy selling, or like it'll be like maybe like a car salesman, or like someone who can like bam 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 bam, and you're talking to three people at once and making deals and you know what I mean, the whole thing. And that's kind of like it's like the mouthpiece, like that, like the gift of gab, so that's why Mercury is like the master of like tones and communication, because you can use your tones to express hella stuff. And then if you can convince people through your tones, that's a part of magic right there, is convincing them through your tones.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, like they could just feel something in you. And
it's funny. Me and Lux have even mentioned this, and we covered it, I think, in our Quetzalcoatl series, because he had to do with QAnon, and we just happened to. I was like, how the fuck have I never noticed that before? I don't know. Have you ever heard of X-22?
No.
He's like, oh God, he's been around. I think probably even before Trump was like even big, but he has always been like pushing that whole Patriots are in control, and like as soon as QAnon came out, like he was fucking all over that shit. And this guy, I mean, he's just been around for a while. Nobody even knows who the fuck he is. He never showed himself or nothing. He just puts out like these videos with like a logo, and like he makes mad fucking money. Like, and his logo is legit the seal for Mercury. He just made it look fucking fancy. He's got the X, and then he uses the twos instead of the fucking two circles on each side. And there's like even in the sigil, like if I show the sigil later, I might have that one. I can go over a little bit, but like legit, his logo is literally the fucking Mercury thing. And I'm like, this is how this guy has been doing this for so long, because he's a fucking salesman. He's selling you a bunch of fucking bullshit, and you're all eating it up. Yes,
and I'm assuming, because I don't know per se, but I'm assuming he's masterful at it, because that's why he's duping. That's why he's duping so many folks. You know what I mean?
And he's very monotone too. It is so fucking weird. Like, because you even mentioned tone, I was like, holy fuck! Like that guy, I could never, even when I was into QAnon, I couldn't listen to him, because I was just like, yo, this guy's too cute, too monotone.
Yeah, and they use that, just how that tone shit hella matters, man, because like even shamans will use tones to get into these realms of trance, like whether they make music or they make their own tones in their own mouth, you know what I mean? Like they'll use these techniques, and they can go to lands with that, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's like, I think of like the whole, the angel thing, right? How you're able to bridge the gap between spiritual realms and physical realms, or there's the hermetic axiom of like as above so below, right? I kind of also think about kind of that one too, like kind of tied to that one. And then with this one here, the magician, I think a bit about Mercury. It's like how you were saying how Thoth was like the magic one, like into the one for bringing magic. And then here with his wand, he's bringing the stuff from up in the cosmos, or from the spirit realm down to earth, to physicality. And then so it's like that bridging the gap. So it's like angel, like it's angelic ties to bridging, like how an angel will bridge, between God and us per se, like in a story,
Even in the way that card, I could be looking at it the wrong way. I even think like the whole interesting thing, the way the arms are going. You remember before how I was saying I think things crossed. Maybe that's even showing you it crossing back the right way now. Who knows?
Oh yeah, because I'm sure if he's going down, then he has to also be going up. Yeah. Right at some point, you know what I mean. And then he has all his stuff. He has all his tools out on the table. Like all the main element tools. You know what I mean? Of he has the cup, the pentacles, which is like, like the water, the earth, like he has all the different elements going there with him, and then we're talking about like swift and cunning, you know what I mean? And then I think about like, so like this is like a little pocket knife, right? but I like this color because I think about Mercury. You know what I mean? And then it's like it's very swift. You know what I mean? It's swift. It'll cut you. It'll cut through the air really good, just how a mouthpiece would. You know, like a good salesman. It has the same principles of that. Yeah.
You know what's funny as we're talking about this, not to interrupt you, but like when I was covering again Michael Myers and Freddy, I was considering them the beast, which was kind of up by Jupiter or Chokmah, but associated with Janus. Janus is like the high arc of Mercury. Mercury is more of like a lower level or mundane version of Janus. And associated with Janus is a sword or a cross. And there was a time and I think it falls on line 17 to be even funnier, in 777, all this stuff for Janus. It was Nightmare on Elm Street, there was a part where the girl is looking for Freddy and she goes downstairs and there is a knife on a blanket and she turns the blanket over and there's a cross sitting there. So I even think neither the knife, like you're showing, or Michael Myers' knife, or Freddy's blades, are all representing that same thing. Now it's on a lower arc. The sword that's associated with Janus is now on a lower arc, and you got fucking Michael Myers now using a knife. It's not a sword anymore. And you got Freddy using fucking blades on his hand. Not a sword anymore.
Yeah. And then you get and there's the swiftness, because either way you're swift.
And what are they both doing? Chasing a chick around constantly. Michael Myers is trying to kill his sister. And Freddy's chasing that fucking bitch around.
Right.
Because his mother killed him originally when he was a fucking person. Man. The queen killed the king, and now the prince is trying to kill the princess.
Oh, man. Hell yeah, dude. It's like in terms of like the chakra, it's like the only one that's actually like open like on its own is, or like exposed open, is right here in the throat, and then this third eye in between the brows. And it's funny because it's like, that's why you got to really you have to be conscientious of yourself, that it's open. So you have to like kind of know how to like take care of yourself to protect yourself. And it's funny because the heart should be open, but that's why I kind of broke down the heart earlier of like how it has this one, the courtyard, and then this is where the closed offness is. Like there's a closure here, you know, and then once you break up, then you have the pink. And that's when it's open. So that one kind of has like a trick of, you have to go through, you have to find out how to get your harmony. There's like a trick to that. You have to find out how you work to find your harmony. But pretty much this one is the one that's open. So it's like, it's exposed to hella much. So you got to like, kind of like protect yourself, and people will know when that one is being compromised, because you just you might feel like you can't even talk good, or maybe like you'll be hella stuttering and you can't get your words out, or your voice will be kind of weird and cracked, or you know what I mean? And so that's definitely tied to that. You know, they're like the only open ones.
You reminded me of something I wanted to say before, and I forgot. Now you reminded me again because you brought up the throat chakra. I'm trying to find this guy's name. I think it might be Mark Stavish. He wrote a book. It might be like called Between the Gates or something like that, or Beyond the Gates, and it was kind of, or I might be completely wrong, but let me see. Between the Gates, yes, Lucid Dreaming and Astral Projection by Mark Stavish. I read that a while ago, and in that book, he does go on and mention there are like certain practices and things that you'll like start doing. A lot of it's visualizing or humming, or like it's all, things to do with your chakras too. He starts getting into that. And there is a part in that book, and it's not like too far in either, where he does bring up and wants you and like gives you a thing to practice on your throat chakra, because he even says himself, it is the bridge between the heart and the third eye chakra. You need to make sure that one is functioning properly, or those two won't. And he stresses that throat chakra.
At our body, dude. Even look how our body's shaped. Think about it. this is like, this looks hella weird compared to the rest. Like here I have a structure, here I have a structure, but this is just like a little funnel. You know what I mean? So it's like a bridging funnel to the, you know what I mean? And then it's like we're like, how are we talking, right? Think about it. We're vibrating these words out. And then so it's like the tone of the vibration. That's where you get all that masterfulness of like the tones, is like the way you vibrate.
Maybe that's where you get the pink from.
Vibration.
This is where the pink color comes from. The vibrating pink vocal cords you got down there.
Yeah. See? And yeah, so and then that's where, yeah, that's pretty fundamental for that. You know what I mean? So it's all about, and it has the potential to be super quick, you know, because when you vibrate, you might not even be able to tell, but it's vibrating so fast that you can't even tell that it's vibrating. And so that's why Mercury could be like the fastest one. You know what I mean? Like if it was a foot race, you know, if it was a foot race, like Mercury is straight up winning the foot race. Cause like, look, like he has like wings, like just how freaking Hermes will have wings on his feet. You know what I mean? He's like, pew, like out. He's out with a hurry. You know what I mean? Like he'll be the fastest one.
You know what I think is interesting about Mercury, and this is like getting into like the middle part. Except for gold on that tree, I really don't know any other metal besides Mercury that is technically in liquid form. I mean, you can get gold at like 24 karat, you know, it'll be like, you know, liquid, but Mercury is almost like kind of like both if you really think about it.
Yeah. Well, right now what comes to mind is I think about that old, I forgot if it was Terminator 2 or 3, but remember when he was a police officer and then that guy was turning into like this silvery looking liquid plasma shit.
Yes.
And then he could turn back to himself and he was like a mixture of both. That's kind of what I think of. It's like, it could be hard, like super hard, but at the same time, it could like break down to like a liquid. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's like almost like an alchemist right there, which I would consider a magician being an alchemist too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is straight up right there too. This is the beginning of the alchemy.
Yeah, you know I even think that infinity thing above his head could even be shown as hemi-syncing, to be totally honest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, this is like the more like the initiatory process of the alchemy when you have all your setup, because you have to be all set up first before you kind of start diving into stuff like temperance. With temperance, you had have already been doing shit. You know what I mean? And so that magician one is like the the initiatory for the alchemy. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
You got anything else you want to cover?
I think that might be it. I think that's kind of pretty much what pretty much threw it out there.
All right, let me just check this real quick, and then we'll finish it off. All right, Mercury. The numbers for that, since it's the 8th sphere on the Tree of Life, 8, 64, 88, and 888. Crazy eights. Color, orange or light blue. And see, even Janus is associated with like soft blue. Rules, Gemini or Virgo. Metal, Mercury or aluminum. Day of the week, Wednesday. Element air, direction east. Concepts, business, communication, deception, flexibility. There we go. You're just talking about that guy, pretty much the T2000 at that point, maybe.
Yeah.
He was pretty flexible, right? Healing, hyperactivity, insight, magic, memory, music, poetry, protection, psychopomp, science, speed, theft, travel, and trickery. Tools, aprons, words, incaduceus, deities, Hermes, Mercury, Nabu, Thoth. And now, see, this one has the Archangel Raphael.
Yeah.
That I guess I would go with because of the caduceus. And here is it's an 8x8 square for the sigil of Mercury. See, here's the X, 2, 2. And then the Jupiter version, which is a higher arc of this, has symbols on the top and bottom that looks just like the dude's fucking logo. It's insane. Archangel Raphael. Raphael means healer of God, and he is archangel charged with healing mankind and the earth. He's the archangel of Mercury and the air. He is the patron of travelers, often being depicted with a pilgrim's staff, and he protects those on journeys, especially air travel. As well as, see, now this even, this makes me think, like you were saying before, if he could be possibly the male energy, now is this the Prince of Air? You know?
Oh yeah.
As well as, because I would say the Prince falls on Hode as well. So as well as protecting travelers, Raphael's special charges are the young and innocent. Raphael is the archangel of knowledge and communication and may be called to help with any related areas, such as improving your memory, learning languages, exams, dealing with bureaucracy and business matters. Raphael was the angel who gave King Solomon the ring inscribed with the pentagram that enabled him to bind demons and force them to build his temple. He was said to have healed the earth after the flood and also visited Noah after the flood to give him a book of medicine, which had belonged to the angel Ratziel. Raphael is usually seen standing about 3 meters tall with a beautiful face. He wears an orange robe and sandals and may bear a caduceus in his right hand. So yeah, that's what I had for Raphael.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freaking when I didn't know memory was tied to it, right? When I saw that, and how earlier I was saying that like Lucifer has like a thing for like holding the forgetting or like the amnesia, and then that starts in the feminine, right? He started in the feminine and then went to masculine, and then
Well, you
so
know,
you
holding
start
on
from
to
forgetting
false
memory.
energy memories could fuck you up as well. They're not going to be authentic or real anymore. They're really just false representations of what the truth was that you may have misunderstood to begin with. So now you're just believing more and more fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying? If you're holding on to memories and tormented with it.
It could be trickery.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like
That's what I was trying to
Loki
get
style.
at, like trickery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then when I see the glyph, you know what I mean? Like how it looks like it looks similar to Venus in a way, but the difference is it has like that little kind of U on the top of the head. So those kind of look like almost like the horns of like Loki as well. Like that's kind of what I think about. Like it reminds me of Loki too when I see those little horns as the difference. Yeah, so I didn't know that it was tied to memory like that. And then with the whole air thing, that's why it cuts, like it has the ability to cut through the air like really good.
Yes.
You know what I mean? With the light blue, because it's funny too, because I don't know, that might be like my favorite color. Like I don't know, like light blue, something about that is like probably just in general like my favorite color. But yeah, right on, bro. Freaking, it's
Yeah,
some
that
good
was
shit.
good. Fuck yeah, man. Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Yeah, so we will finish up the rest of it in part 3, and we'll also he's got a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'll bring some stuff to the table too that we're gonna wrap up in episode 3. Definitely be worth a listen if you enjoyed the first 2. Thank you very much for listening. If you didn't enjoy it, oh well, I'm sorry, I did. But thanks for listening anyway. If you still listen. But I hope everybody enjoyed it. I did. I thought these were actually really great discussions and talks, and just flowed fucking amazing, dude. So thank you again for coming.
Yeah,
on.
right on, man. It was
yeah.
it's. I like having the little synchronicities of how just shit you didn't know ends up tying around really good, and then so.
Well, I think it's great how like you have your way of that. Like you're not into the Kabbalah, but then yet we'll both like bounce off of each other and be like, holy shit, like, okay, like I see what you're saying. And we're speaking different languages, really.
Yeah. And then that's how you know you're onto it. Like,
yes,
like
exactly.
onto a path, you know, just how like, I didn't know that Mars and Venus are separate like that. How I talked about how like the masculine and the feminine, like they're like the polarized aspects of the planets in terms of the gender. And then I didn't know how, like how I talk about how Venus transitions into Mercury, it's very significant, that transition. And then how you talk about how that's in the tree. And then so it's like I think about like the torch, you know what I mean? And so it's like it's pretty cool, man. And then so it kind of makes you, yeah.
You know what I meant to mention before too, when we talked about copper being I mentioned copper was associated with Venus. Now copper, what makes it? It will turn green though, won't it? After a while.
Yeah. Right.
And green goes with Venus.
Right.
Isn't that fucking weird?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I love it. It's like you get different like alchemy, like physical property perspectives, alchemy perspectives. Like it's sick how this it's no joke. Like it all ties into each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's funny because like I remember like right now when you said the word copper, I'm like, well, what do I know about copper? The only thing I remember about copper in my life is like when people first got pagers and beepers. You know what I mean? Yes. Mine was a copper color. That was my first
Oh,
beeper.
shit. That's fucking old.
Remember
Dude.
that, beepers and pagers?
I remember that shit. Yeah, I think I was like 17 or 18 when I had one. Fuck, wow, that's so long ago. Damn, yeah, man. Yeah, so let everybody know, before we wrap this up, let everybody know where they can find your stuff one more time, please.
Yeah, right on. So my podcast is Uncanny Mystic Minds Podcast. You can Google it and you can pick whatever platform you like. I like Spotify because you can see videos on it, on the video ones that I did make. And also pretty much my IG is Uncanny Mystic Minds. My email is the same thing, uncannymysticminds@gmail. So if you want to like talk about being a guest, or if you want to just ask me anything in terms of like the kind of stuff that we talk about, just shoot me a line and I'll be happy to talk to you as well.
Nice. And I'll put all your links in the bottom as well. And
Thank you, sir.
yeah, not a problem. Thank you. And the links for everything that the Spiritual Gangsters, and I'm also on, the links will be there in the link tree in the bottom for that. The Occult Rejects. The YouTube, unfortunately, we received a strike, so I haven't gone live for a while. That I'm assuming will be over by the time this airs. But yeah, everything. Also, check out Toramore, everything, Lux Rising, the NY Patriot Show, and the Occult Rejects, all on that. And I do want to remind the listeners again, we do have that Element server, just like Discord, but better.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
I gotta get on that. Yeah, because I was on the Discord and then whoop de whoop.
Yeah, that came down.
Yeah, so now
we've had that Element server since
the Element one. Then yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the one thing I do like about it is that, like, on the computer, I mean, you'll probably do it on your phone too, but on the computer, you don't even have to use the app. You could literally just do it from web-based. So I don't have to download a program onto my computer. I could just go on the web and actually go and chat. So yeah, check it out. It's really, like I said, you don't even have to download it. You could just use the web base. I'm sure it will work on the phone too if you did it the same way, I would think. Maybe not. But yeah, check that out. There's other shows in there. There's tons of channels. We do Twin Peaks watch parties and stuff. So definitely check it out. The link's in the bottom. And thank you again, Louie, for real. That was a fun time. It was another banger of an episode. And I definitely look forward to doing number 3 with you, my man. Thank you very much. And
Hell yeah, dude.
until the next one, everybody be well. Later.